r/Askreddit by Reddit and chill. What was the worst dating experience you've had and why? Met a lovely girl over Tinder. We really hit it off and had a great conversation. Decided to meet in person for coffee the next day. She showed up on time, looked just like her pictures, and brought her boyfriend. So, was it A. Jealous boyfriend sabotage? B. Devil's threesome? C. Her not knowing what Tinder is about? I went on a first date with a guy. He was very educated and polite. He was friends of a friends and they set up us. They failed to mention that he just got out of a 5-year relationship and was not over her in the slightest. We went to a restaurant he frequently took his ex to, which I found out 10 minutes into the date. I would try to change the subject when he mentioned her, but it was obvious he needed someone to vent to. So I spent the date letting him get out his thoughts, emotions about his ex. He wasn't a bad guy. He just wasn't in a position to be dating anyone. Everything you've written here is like 5 green flags for yourself at least. Wish you the best. Dinner went pretty well. He was funny. Sweet. So we decided to Uber to a bar. On the way they were holding hands and chatting. The guy immediately pulls his half-hard coke out and asks the Uber driver to reroute to his home. The Uber driver threatened to call the cops, kicked him out of the car, and drove me home free of charge. That's a 5 driver. She ordered 3 bottles of wine at dinner. I had maybe 3 glasses total, which means she had 9 glasses on her own. When she tried to order a 4th one, the waiter cut her off. She caused a scene and got us kicked out of the restaurant. I called her an Uber, and while we were waiting she pissed herself in the parking lot. Basically poured her into the backseat of her Uber and went home. She texts the next day, "Hey, sorry I missed our date last night. I must have taken a nap and slept through it. Reschedule? Row. Just woke up and saw how popular this is. Figured I'd follow up." Here's the rest of that convo. Imgur.com link. For context, Beach Bar is a bar my ex works at. Blackout had originally suggested we meet there for drinks, and I had to explain that she works there and is kinda crazy and I probably shouldn't take a date there. She knew that's what I called the place. When I first said I'll get back to you, I was really contemplating a second chance because she's smoking hot. But ultimately my big head prevailed over my little head. I had a very similar experience, lol. Girl drank like 3 pitchers of beer. I had 1 beer total, and she ended up puking on herself as soon as we left the restaurant. I took transit with her across town to make sure she got home safe. This was pre-Uber. Took me like 2 hours to get back home. The next day she texts me, asking if I would like to meet up again as she had to leave early last night because of a work thing. What? Lol. Sophomore year of college. My roommate and I decided to double date. It was the first date for both of us and we invited the guys to our apartment to watch A Knight's Tale. My date got drunk within 20 minutes and spent most of the movie face down in my lap mumbling "it's just so anachronistic," while my roommate and her date cuddled and laughed at me. I hope your lap is less anachronistic these days. My only blind date. My college roommate had a date. Asked me if I'd come along and take out his date's roommate. I thought, what the hell? Why not? We arrive at their place to pick them up. My date comes out. She's cute. She looks at me and just says, "Oh hell no." She goes somewhere else. I drown my sorrows in pitchers of margaritas. Find out they have a 2 pitcher per person limit. And we're at 6 pitchers already. I call a buddy to join us. Buddy arrives. Sits across from me. Order 2 more pitchers of margaritas. Buddy tells me he had plans with a girl he'd been dating for a bit, but the plans had just fallen through. So let's get effed up. 3 minutes later, the girl he had plans with arrives on a date with another dude, sits at the table right next to us. We call another buddy to join, so we can get 2 more pitchers of margaritas. In retrospect, we should have gone home after the second pitcher of margaritas. That is honestly so ducking depressing. But holy shit, I can't stop laughing at the sheer amount of misfortune for you and your pals. Pitchers were a great idea, BTW. Didn't quite get to the dating part. My best friend was a guy and his girlfriend didn't like me hanging out with him. She decided she wanted to set me up on a date to get me out of her hair. My best friend asks me to please do this to get her off his back. Apparently the guy she wanted to set me up with was her co-worker's brother. He was a young widower and a solid guy. I reluctantly agreed and she gave him my number. This guy called me and we talked. He told me that he was a widower. We talked about his job. He didn't ask me out. 3 more conversations over the phone and he still didn't ask me out. I finally told him if he wanted to go out on a date it would have to be soon as I was leaving on a lengthy trip soon. He said he was waiting. I asked him what was he waiting for? And his reply was, the funeral. His wife's funeral. You could have knocked me over with a feather. I noped out of that ASAP and told him he should wait a while to date. Was so mad at my best friend and told him his girlfriend could duck off. This is just sad. Who would ever want to date someone like that? I suppose you could be sure he'd get over you quickly. They walked into the restaurant immediately said I don't believe in dental hygiene. I believed them as they had black teeth and gums that I could smell from several feet away. I could not tell if it was a joke or some sort of experiment, but it was hard to focus on much else. It was easily the most disgusting mouth I've ever seen. Had a date like this once. Wasn't quite as bad but his front teeth were very obviously rotten and it was incredibly distracting. All I could think the whole time was, please do not try to kiss me. He also tried to pay me $200 for a blowjob weeks later, after I had turned a second date down. I went on a Tinder date that ended in me leaving because his friends showed up at his place with a stolen goat. They wanted to kill it and try to get in touch with the spirit world. I wish I was kidding. I had friends who one day started talking about the spells they'd thought of casting on an ex but then decided not to out of pure inner moral strength. They were not being silly. And we weren't teenagers. I did what any sane adult would do. I pet the cat until the gathering was over. And then I left. I never really talked to those people again beyond the minimum for polite social interaction when necessary. As a much older, still somewhat sane adult, if that kind of thing happened again, I'd probably just call them a bunch of ducking nuts and walk out immediately. Probably any of the dates with my abusive ex when she would throw a public tantrum to test me. For example, the last time we went out together before I managed my escape we were going to the zoo. She wants to cross the road. I ask why and point out we can't get to the zoo from that side. She immediately goes into a screaming hissy fit. Shouting. Tears. The whole works. Right there in the middle of the street in a very busy city. I was pretty used to it and done with the whole thing by this point in our relationship. Previously I would have been desperately trying to comfort her but this time after she wouldn't tell me what was wrong I just walked away. Tears dry up. Comes running after me. Finally explains there's a shop across the road she wants to visit. 10 years later I can still feel the exasperation with how bloody stupid the whole episode was. She would throw a public tantrum to test me. I do not miss the days when I used to put up with shit like that. Okay. I was a sophomore in college and went on the worst Tinder date of my life. This guy invites me to a Really Bro Y college bar. He shows up in sweatpants. I bought us the first round of drinks. But he never got another round. So that was it. I definitely wasn't drunk enough for this. I'm trying to make the most about this because he's cute and I only wanted something casual anyway. I was truly trying to make conversation. But every answer he gives is about football. He said he was on the team, a Google search later on proved that to be false. I asked him what he did for fun. Football. What other hobbies he had. Working out after football practice. Does he enjoy any games or anything? Madden. He also took a phone call in the middle of the date. While he was talking on the phone right in front of me. I was looking at the decorative signs all over the bar. I was too young to get up and just walk out. But I really wish I would have at this moment. When he hangs up the phone, he sees me scanning the signs on the wall and says, "So you like to read?" Huh. We left shortly after. He insisted on walking me home. We get to my apartment building. He goes in for a hug. While grabbing me, he whispers, "I was really hoping to get a piece of this tonight. You can't be serious right now." I say, "Maybe next time," and run away. He sees me scanning the signs on the wall and says, "So you like to read?" Huh. Lol. I'm imagining him walking down the street trying his hardest not to accidentally read signs. God damn it. Johnson. Keep it together. Don't want to be a ducking nerd. On the very first date, this woman decides to tell me she had an affair with her brother-in-law. Couldn't leave the bar fast enough. Went on a first date. Waited 60 minutes for food at the restaurant. Cue awkward conversation. Went to a movie and the movie jammed in the middle and we had to wait 20 minutes for them to fix it. Cue awkward conversation. On the way home, the car broke down and he insisted we couldn't call any of my brothers or sisters for a ride. So we walked 4 miles home. In the snow. We have been married for 37 years. Semicolon. He totally sabotaged the car. I got catfished, but for some reason I felt too mean calling her out on it because she was a nice person. Just not my type. And she had obviously used another woman's photos. Other than that, she seemed very kind and I didn't want to hurt her feelings. So we still went to my place, where eventually during a movie after some hints she finally just asked me, "Do you want to have sex now?" Again I felt bad. So I made up this lie about how I really wanted to. But I was a devout Christian and it was a war inside me. I got her a soda and we finished watching Captain America. At the end of it she asked me if I was gay and I said no. Then she kinda rolled her eyes while we said goodbye. I wasn't before I saw Chris Evans shirtless. But now I kinda am. And not like post Super Soldier Serum. But shirtless before the Super Soldier Serum. I like twinks. I guess. I went on a date with a guy who not only felt that I was emasculating him because I won't let him pay for my meal and drinks. It was a first date and I believe in splitting the bill on the first date so that no one feels they owe the other. He kept demanding that I'll let him pay and I kept saying it's fine when he blurted out, "Just let me pay, damn it. How the duck else am I gonna get lucky tonight?" Date ended there and then. I don't sleep with people of the first date either. It made my school year awkward though because we shared a lot of classes, but for the most part I avoided him. How the duck else am I gonna get lucky tonight? How do some people's minds work? Mr. Complex. Ugh. It was seriously like he was a shitty movie stereotype come to life. He made a couple of snarky comments about me wearing heels on the date even though I wasn't. We were the same height, 5 feet 7 inches, and I guess imaginary heels was the only way his mind could grapple with the concept. When we got to the restaurant, I opened my door to exit the vehicle and he began screaming at me for making him look like less of a man by not letting him open my door for me. A lot of the dinner conversation was about how women don't appreciate a male provider anymore. I was young and stupid, so we ended up going back to his place and it was the only time I've actually had an "is it in?" moment. Afterward, he recalled that he's pleased many women before and they all said he was one of the best they'd ever had. But before I left, he let me know we were actually at his sister's house and she was in the bedroom next to us and to try not to wake her up leaving. What a sad dude. I hope he got therapy. Who has time for therapy with all that pleasuring of women he has going on? Congratulations. You went on a date with a homeless ex-con junkie Nazi that used you to fish for dinner. Lumfeo. I don't blame you for cutting your friend off after setting you up with that. The duck were they thinking? Not me, but I was heavily involved in setting up the date. I set up a good friend. A girl with a guy I used to work with. Later that night after the date, she called me up and said I think I'm related to him somehow. We go sleuthing on Facebook and text each other updates. And after an hour of talking to some distant relatives, we are dead certain that he's her nephew a couple of times removed. She calls me up sobbing saying they had already had sex twice after that first date. That seems like a pretty extreme reaction to discovering a distant relationship which you needed to spend more than an hour trying to uncover. First night I stayed over at my partner's house. We both thought her family had gone away for the weekend and were somewhat vocal as a response. The morning proved us wrong when her mother congratulated us over breakfast she had specially prepared. She offered us tips and practical advice. Also gave us a thumbs up. Best meal ever. Mortifying at the time, however. They had a large house. And her mother was keeping herself occupied in a wing we had no reason to enter. So we didn't expect her to be home. Tips like what? Some stories. I started talking to a girl on Facebook I used to go to elementary school with. We start seeing each other. After the first 2 dates, this girl's friend starts to come everywhere with us. We'd go to a bar. She's there. We'd go to restaurant. She's there. I go to her house. This girl's there. I try to be nice and explain how it's weird your friend is always with us. I feel like I'm dating her as well. It doesn't change. The girl is still around the next time I see her, and now she complains I didn't pay for her friend's drink as well as her drink. I tell her that I'm not dating her friend as well and that I've talked to her about this. Her friend gets mad at me, calling me selfish. I ended it there and then. Went on a date with a girl from POF who worked in a prison. She told me never to date a prison guard because they all cheat on their partners with co-workers. She told me her ex works with her and that he was married and their affair broke up the marriage. So after 30+ minutes of this, I asked her why I should date her after she gave me all this advice not to date a prison guard when she's one. She didn't know what I meant. I met a girl on Tinder. We went on 3-4 dates. Had slept together. She asks me to meet her friends for drinks. I go. Night seems to go well. We're about to leave and she gets a call. I ask who was that. It's her BF, wondering where she is, and tells me it's okay, she'll just tell him she's with the girls. I'm like, WTF? You have a BF? She's like, yeah. Of course. You didn't know this is just a side thing? No. No, I did not. Met a girl off OKC. She seems okay. But tells me 30 minutes into the date she's moving 3 hours away in a month. Told her she should have mentioned it during the week prior we were texting. She said I wouldn't have met if I knew. I told her she's right. Ducking like and subscribe.